Bitcoin is pairing some gains after flirting with 26,800 in the last 24 hours. Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is CoinRoutes CEO and co-founder Dave Weisberger. Welcome, Dave.
Thanks for having me. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Just to get the ball rolling, your outlook on what is happening with Bitcoin right now, next support/resistance levels?
Well, I mean, we're kind of stuck, it's interesting what's happened. We were at 29,000 for, 8 weeks? And, every rally was, would get going on some news about BlackRock or Fidelity joining ETFs, et cetera. And the FOMO would not get materialized because long-term holders would basically sit at the levels, not being willing to support the market, but basically, competing with each other to accumulate. We had an event last week where all the leverage in the system got flushed out. I've described this in detail. Happy to go into it if you care. But essentially, what it looks like a momentum ignition event where someone decided to try to push the market down and was successful because they were able to encounter a lot of leverage out there, which triggered in price insensitive liquidations, et cetera, et cetera. And so we fell into a new range. The new range seems pretty strong. As my friend Scott Melker points out, 25.2, give or take, is a very important technician-oriented level that people look at, and it was not able to push past it. It successfully tested that level, and that was at the same time that, if for technical indicators, one that I do watch is RSI, Relative Strength Index, hit one of the certainly a multi-year low during this selling. So I look at this as there's support in the 25,000, 26 to 25,000 range, and the market is basically looking at that, and it's kind of teetering between two swan events. So, we have a black swan and a white swan event that haven't happened yet that everybody's worried about. And that kind of keeps markets in range-bound scenarios until they happen. Now, the two events are what's going on with Binance, the DOJ, and other global authorities on the black swan side, and what's going on with BlackRock, Fidelity, et cetera, on the Bitcoin ETF side, on the white swan side. Either one of those could have a very large effect in one direction or another.
What do you think the catalyst is going to be? So just to give you some context, some of the analysts who've come on the show think that we may already be in a bull market. Some other analysts say that we are currently in a bear market. What do you think the next catalyst is going to be to kind of start that next rally?
Well, the markets that kind of exist to humble people, right? I mean, what will be the catalyst? I mean, my gut tells me both of those two swan events will resolve, and then Bitcoin, which I believe is fundamentally undervalued going into the halving, will resume its upside march. So color me in the bullish camp. The one thing that is a major caveat to this is if one believes that the global stock markets and the U.S. stock market in particular are going to have a very rough fall, and there are a lot of people who believe that for many reasons that there will be a broader market sell-off in the fall, that will impact crypto. Other than that, however, if you don't believe that is the case, then I think that the stars align for, I wouldn't say we're in a bull market. I would say that a bull market base is being built, at these levels rather strongly. But look, those two swan events are very relevant. I mean, Binance is a major part of global liquidity, and with allegations ranging from, oh, it won't be a problem, they'll pay a fine and move on, to, oh my God, the whole thing could blow. And I have no personal data on Binance one way or another. I do want to make a point about BNB, though. Is a lot of the market sell-off over the last few weeks has been tied to death spiral predictions of BNB and saying that is necessary for Binance's liquidity and long-term solvency. Once again, zero knowledge about whether that is true. I actually frankly doubt it. But until there's a full accounting audit, we won't know. But what I can say... I'm sorry. I want to make one point about BNB. What I can say is the liquidity just isn't there for it to be such an important, market, bellwether. Just to put it in perspective, you could sell if you sell $10 million worth of Bitcoin or $15 million worth of Bitcoin, you barely registers. I mean, it's going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of a quarter of a percent to 0.5% price impact. If you sell $15 million worth of BNB right now on the book, you can knock it down across all major exchanges, even in the aggregate books, down to 180. Now, I'm not saying anyone's going to do that because that would be a rather idiotic kind of trade, but the reality is there just isn't much liquidity there.
Yeah, no, we appreciate all the riders in the speculation. It is obviously difficult to figure out how this is going to shake out. But I want to just ask you about the hype cycle AI thing. AI-focused tokens, we've written articles today about it, like Fetch.ai, Render, and Singularity Net are surging after Nvidia topped second quarter earnings estimates, signaling the bullish AI trend is here to stay. And, Jen was talking about catalysts. Where do you see AI figuring in your black swan, white swan, obviously white swan range, but how much of a catalyst would it actually be? Yeah.
I think long term it is incredibly bullish for Bitcoin and tokens that are real projects. Unfortunately, a lot of projects come out and make claims about AI. I mean, I've been doing quantitative trading for years, and I ran, when I was running Citi's StatArb model, we were doing what people would call machine learning, but others would call it AI to try to attract investors. I mean, AI gets hype in many things, but Bitcoin is very, very real because AI is going to consume vast amounts of data and need a digital store of value and method of transacting. There is no doubt. Arthur Hayes lays this out extremely well a few months ago. I fundamentally believe it. And I think that as more and more value is created by computer networks, having a purely digital method of transaction and value is a very big driver of Bitcoin demand. And when you look at the Bitcoin statistics of long-term holders, unique addresses, pretty much every fundamental one would care to look at, hash rates, etc., they're all up and to the right chart. And while price kind of moves all over the place, that AI narrative is extremely supportive of that long-term vision. A particular catalyst I think of in my head is something that's going to get everybody moving. It could be as simple as some would say that there's just not enough Bitcoin to satisfy the demand at these price levels. And so at some point you'll run, it will create, too much competition to buy and you'll get a bull run. And could that point be at any time? Yes, it could. Is it more likely going into and after the halving? Yeah, of course.
All right, Dave, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That was CoinRoutes CEO and co-founder Dave Weisberger.